Welcome back to the Daily Wrap, everybody. I'm Joe Concha, along with Heather Hansen, Rick Unger, and Jillian Melcher. So, November 24, 2014 was a very bad day for Sony Picture Studios when its computer servers, were hacked. The North Korean Geek Squad released emails containing sensitive material, including salaries, social security numbers, contract negotiations, concerning some of our biggest Hollywood stars. Sony Pictures co-chair at the time, Amy Pascal, suffered the worst when her emails trashing celebrities and the president himself were released. Amy wrote that she thought that Angelina Jolie was a spoiled, untalented brat, that the president's favorite movies actually featured all-black casts, and that Jennifer Lawrence was earning less money than her male co-stars for American Hustle, which, by the way, was really disappointing as a whole, considering the cast, but that's a topic for another time. Anyway, the last bit is sort of ironic because Pascal gave an interview to Tina Brown during the Women's Conference in San Francisco yesterday, where she had this to say about the emails.
There was this horrible moment where I realized there was absolutely nothing at all that I could do about whether I'd hurt people, whether I'd betrayed people, whether I'd said things that I didn't mean. I couldn't protect anyone, not their feelings, not what they thought of me. And it was horrible because that's how I figured I did my job for all of my life. And it was also strangely freeing.
Wow. I haven't seen Pascal in a while, but I'd love to see the emails that she wrote about both her hairstylist and whoever's dressing her. Good Lord. Anyway, Pascal was asked about Angelina Jolie as well and whether things were smoothed over.
The first person I talked to was Angie after that email. I mean, yes, everybody understood because we all live in this weird thing together called Hollywood. If we all actually were nice, it wouldn't work.
This is fascinating. Amy was then asked about working with talent.
Talent is very vulnerable very often. I mean, sometimes people think these major stars are, have big egos. Actually, most of the time, they're very vulnerable.
They're the most vulnerable. And so they're bottomless pits of need.
Bottomless pits of need. And so
you've never seen anything like it.
You have to wrap it up. You have to really tell them.
But they're so great.
Okay, Rick, you were Mr. Hollywood.
I'm not a bottomless pit of need.
You were Mr. Hollywood at one point. You and Amy Pascal used to do Pilates, from what I understand.
We did something, but it wasn't Pilates.
Fascinating.
I promise you, it wasn't that either.
Fascinating.
We were on opposite sides of the table most of the time.
Oh, very good. So what are your impressions of Amy Pascal?
I'm not going to answer that question. That would not be a good idea. One of my partners still produces the Spider-Man movies. My impression is she was, until a few days ago, a studio head.
The thing that amazes me is she says the lesson that she learned is that she needs to say directly to people exactly what it is that she thinks of them all the time. To me, that wouldn't be necessarily the lesson you learn here. You learn the lesson that perhaps you need to have a little more tact, perhaps think before you speak or email, but not her. She decides she's just going to tell people exactly what it is and how it is.
I promise you she won't.
Well, she has.
No, she didn't tell them. She told somebody else what she thought.
But even then.
Michelle, she seems to be almost relieved that she's no longer in the high chair anymore, that she's running Sony Pictures. What they did was they gave her a picture deal to produce movies under the Sony umbrella, and she looks like somebody who's just been emancipated, freed from like a North Korean prison, so to speak. Pun intended, and now seems quite relaxed and seems to have no regrets whatsoever, amazingly.
Yeah, I mean, that's sure not how I would feel. But, I think what's so interesting about this is we've seen this happen in the public sector where you write something that you shouldn't have written and it becomes public. I think this is unique because it's the private sector. But bottom line is, if you don't want it printed, if you don't want it read, don't let it happen. And that's a lesson for anybody.
I do need to explain to you guys how it works in Hollywood when you get fired. It's never a bad thing. It's a good thing. She will now attach as a producer on Spider-Man. She'll
Make a lot of
do
money.
just
Yeah, she's
fine.
gonna
Thank
make
you
a lot
very
of money.
much. Yeah.
And that's one thing, they talk about the gender gap in the payment there, and J. Law didn't get paid as much as the other guys.
J.
in
Law? Who's this
Jennifer
J. Law?
Lawrence.
Oh,
J.
Jennifer
Law.
Lawrence.
Come on,
man.
She didn't get paid as much for American Hustle. And her point was women need to ask for more. And I think that's a good lesson
true.
for women to learn,
Yeah.
that they need to ask for, because she said, as a person who's doing the paying, you're not going to volunteer to pay more money. I think that's maybe a good lesson. And she definitely abides by
She
what
also
she says.
said that J. Law is now getting a lot more
Right,
money.
right. Yeah, you learn your
Only
lesson.
about 15 seconds,
Okay.
but could you imagine if somehow it was revealed that Amy Pascal was a Republican or a conservative, and those emails came out about her asking, what kind of movies do you think
Scandal.
the president likes? Kevin
Absolute
Hart
scandal.
movies? Yeah, Twitter would have broken probably.
She's not.
Well, I mean, she still had to pay penance
Yeah.
to Al Sharpton.
That's
Yeah.
true.
She went there, she was ready for some healing.
Oh, you think it was
You
penance?
call it penance?
Penance.
I call it a shakedown.
Yeah. I'll call it a check made out to the Action Network. So, and Sharpton Pictures should have its next film coming
He
out.
always
No
wins.
Pictures.
question. Anyway, coming up next, it's Political Potluck, the best part of the show. This is the Daily Wrap, and it's only on Newsmax TV.